When you hear Velociraptor, what pops into your mind? A 6-foot predator, razor-sharp claws, pack hunters communicating like wolves. That's the blockbuster version, but the real Velociraptor was even more fascinating, and much different. It wasn't a monster. It was a small, feathered predator that's more closely related to modern birds than to any lizard you've ever seen. Welcome to CabJ's Bioryx, your new favorite home for dinosaur truths and wild biology facts. In this episode, we're unmasking the real Velociraptor. Smaller than you think, smarter than you'd guess, and cooler than Hollywood could ever imagine. Ready? Let's dive into the science and separate the fact from the fiction.
Clever girl.
Thanks to Jurassic Park, Velociraptors became pop culture icons. But the raptors in those films weren't actually Velociraptors. They were based on Deinonychus, a larger cousin. Real Velociraptors. They stood about half a meter tall, roughly knee height, and stretched about 6 feet long, most of that being tail. They weighed less than a golden retriever, around 15 to 30 pounds. Scary, sure. But not the dinosaur wolves we saw on screen. And don't expect them to open doors either. There's zero evidence for that level of intelligence. The first Velociraptor fossil was discovered in 1923, deep in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. Since then, more than a dozen partial skeletons have been unearthed. The name, Velociraptor, means swift thief, fitting for a fast, agile hunter. But perhaps the most famous fossil, the fighting dinosaurs, a velociraptor and protoceratops locked in combat, claws sunk into flesh, jaws clamped shut, both buried in a sandstorm mid-fight. It's a snapshot of prehistoric life and death, frozen in stone for 75 million years. Here's where things get truly wild. Velociraptors had feathers. Fossils show quill knobs, small bumps on the bone where feathers anchored, just like in modern birds. But don't picture them flying. These weren't wings. They were more for insulation, display, or balance. So yes, the real raptor looked more like a giant, angry bird than a scaly dragon. This discovery helped strengthen the theory that birds evolved from dinosaurs, and that means you see dinosaur descendants every day. Just look up.
Mr. Udusky! Mr. Udusky!
He's dead.
Oh my god. No, he's not.
No, wait, something's not right.
Gotta help him.
Amanda!
Hold on.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Jurassic Park made raptors out to be brilliant, setting traps, coordinating attacks. But real velociraptors were only moderately smart. Yes, they had a relatively large brain for their size, especially in the areas linked to sight and smell. But there's no clear evidence of complex social behavior or teamwork. Were they clever predators? Definitely. Mini masterminds? Not likely. That iconic sickle-shaped claw. It was real, and deadly. Velociraptors had a sharp, retractable claw on each foot, held upright while running and brought down with force during attacks. But here's the twist. They might not have used it to slash like a knife. Instead, they could have used it to pin prey, like modern birds of prey do with talons, holding struggling animals down while delivering fatal bites. Velociraptors were small, smart, and covered in feathers, not the towering killers of the big screen. But in some ways, the truth is even cooler. They're a perfect example of how science evolves, how new discoveries rewrite the past and reveal incredible connections to the present. So next time you hear someone say, raptor, imagine something that's half dinosaur, half bird, and 100% awesome. If you loved this Dino deep dive, hit like, tap subscribe, and drop a comment. Which dinosaur should we explore next? Stay curious, and keep roaring with CabJ's by Oryx.